This is a very rustic countryside setting for a 3-star. Very relaxed, very warm, and almost like a family cottage. Set in the absolute middle of nowhere. And there's not a house, there's not a pub, there's not another hotel, within any 10 to 15 mile radius. A very countrified, wonderful little retreat. Del Pescadori is run by Antonio and Nadia. Antonio is front of house, concentrating on the dining room. Nadia is the only 3 Michelin star female chef in the world. Incredibly clever, but just like a real, proper mum.
This is a recipe about brochet, which is a kind of fish that lives in our rivers. And then we have to cook with very hot water. Excuse me, my English is very bad. But not on the fire. And then it is very, very good and soft. Pink here, you see? Good appetit. The cooking is very long for these dishes, almost 2 hours, but with the fire very, very slow, very little fire. And then after with the garlic oil, extra virgin, and rosemary, and it is enough. It is okay. After 2 hours, it is okay. I prepare for you this evening. Good appetit. This way, you see this is big, this is a little bit smaller, because this is a branch of the trees. And then we can conserve in a box just when we want to cook. And it is important because in Italy, the pasta that has not something into has to be al dente, and then we have to prepare before, and then to serve. When we cook, we need to, we can to cook very, very little minutes, very few minutes, and in this way it is important because it is al dente.
Nadia has a very simple way of dressing food. Very rustic, very almost peasant form. It's actually sometimes remind me of going home to eat my mother's food. But unfortunately, mum's food doesn't taste as good as this. Very simple approach to putting things on a plate. But like she did announce to me at the dinner that she concentrates on the flavour, because it is the flavour that holds in memory. We all sat round this huge table. 12 of us sat round just next to the garden, and it started to become very relaxed. Everyone was in a good mood and ready for some fantastic food. It was Marcus and Christoph's first time ever to eat in a 3-star restaurant in Italy. As you can see, they were becoming very intense in studying the menu and anticipating some fantastic food, obviously matched with some brilliant wines.
And that's the area.
To start with, we had this delicious tureen of tomatoes, courgettes and peppers with a balsamic vinegar. It was incredibly tasty, very naturally set together, and with the acidity from the vinegar, it matched incredibly well with the confit vegetables.
Small producer open the door for other producer.
Thierry reminds me sometimes when I'm watching him eat, like a surgeon, dissecting his food bit by bit. Next dish was the caramelised pig trotter served with braised cabbage. Now, if I started serving food like this in England, I'm going to get crucified. It was just the skin of the pig trotter, caramelised for 3.5 hours in a very, very low temperature in the oven, served very simply with some braised cabbage. It tasted delicious. They actually even left the toenails on the pig's feet. Can you imagine if I served Faye Mashler pig's toes?
Teoricamente presente.
It was nice to see Terry actually enjoying the wine this time, as opposed to sitting down and writing every detail.
Chardonnay, c'est Chardonnay from Umbria.
This was going to be an 8-course dinner, and this is our 3rd course, and already we're on to the pasta. And this was a wonderful tortellini of guinea fowl, served with its own juices. And the guinea fowl actually being confit, shredded into fine little shreds, bound together with a touch of its own liver, and then put inside this wonderful oatmeal brown tortellini paste.
The important part of rolling pasta, first of all, is to have a nice soft dough, which is not too dry. Secondly, is not to over-exaggerate on the flour, because if you start seasoning it with too much flour, it'll become very dry. Therefore, we won't be able to stretch it. So we're going to roll it out very thinly with our rolling pin before we put it through the machine. Nice and straight. As you can see, we're not using any flour yet. Like so. Right. Lightly flour the table, very lightly. Onto the pasta machine, starting from number 10. And each time we roll down, we're going to go down from 10 to 9. So we can actually finish with this beautiful transparent pasta, which is incredibly thin. It's important, whilst we're rolling this, that we have an assistant in order to, I wind it through, Darren will pull it through. So we're feeding off each other, basically. As you can see, each time we're going through the machine, it's doubling in size, becoming a lot thinner, and obviously a lot more difficult to handle. So this pasta dough here is made out of 550 grams of flour, 4 whole eggs and 6 egg yolks. That's properly seasoned with salt, some olive oil, and then we put a very fine saffron reduction inside as well, just to taint the pasta and to make it that lovely golden, rich yellow colour.
Nice French oak, I would say. Still young. But very good fruit, very great potential. Magnifique. Il y a des trucs à voir, mais c'est joli.
For our 4th course, we had this wonderful classic broth. This was a broth made out of 3 salamis, which was one of the first original dishes of Del Pescadori, and it was actually cooked by Nadia's parents when she was a little girl, and it's been on the menu ever since. In order to accompany the broth, fresh Parmigiano was grated in front of your own eyes, and the smell as it hit the broth was amazing.
I just wanted I wanted to make sure you were reading my pack.
So now we can prepare the tortellini with pecorino, parmigiano and ricotta. Tortellini with 3 kinds of cheese and white truffle.
Holding this truffle, which weighed in excess of 400 grams, about 900 pounds worth, was like holding a gas canister. It was incredibly fresh, amazingly fragrant, and just what a wonderful aroma this truffle had set off around the table. Everybody had to have a sniff. For me, one of the highlights of the evening was just witnessing the size of these truffles, and then of course having them beautifully grated on top of the ravioli. Thin white shavings incredibly succulent and very, very tasty. The simplicity of the ravioli, completely uncomplicated, but the flavours were outstanding. Simplicity at its best.
C'est riche, ça. C'est riche. C'est très bon.
Très bon.
Très bon.
Thierry again, in his laboratory, dissecting the ravioli.
No, guarda.
So this is our ravioli lobsters we're making for lunch. And we have to be very quick, otherwise the pasta starts to dry. And if it starts to dry, then we've got a problem with having them cracking and breaking, so therefore there'll be water going inside. We don't want that at all. Sorry, Hattie. Hattie, you should be finishing shortly, yes?
I need one more.
Yeah, just wait. The pasta's drying very quickly. How many's en place? Good. So we put these together very quickly, like so, and press it down, thumb over, and stretch it back over, up into the hands, and then just very carefully nip them together, removing all the air from inside the ravioli. Now, if we don't remove the air, then that causes a huge air bubble, which sometimes can cause the ravioli to actually break. Like so, it's actually ripped already, so open that one up, Darren. So, nip together like so. We have to be extremely fast whilst making these because the pasta's drying out at a rate that within 3 or 4 minutes you're going to be totally dry and not ready for use. Inside the ravioli today we've got a very fine puree of salmon, fresh lobster, basil, some lemon juice and a touch of coriander. That's bound together. We ball it up just like an ice cream ball and then set it in the fridge for 10 minutes to rest before we start making them. This helps to contain the shape. So now we're just trimming around with the scissors, giving it a haircut. From there, they go into the water and we blanch them for 30 seconds in boiling water. Then we refresh them in ice water and then set them out on a tray.
One of the grapes of Piemonte.
Wish for me, you know?
Comunque è sicuramente edizione.
Guess what we had for our 6th course? Frog's legs. And this was cooked by, would you believe, Nadia's mum. This is a dish that she put on the menu 30 years ago. I can never imagine my mum in my kitchen. Can you imagine? This dish has become a very classic, refined dish on her menu and has been on there ever since the family first bought the inn. And it's frog's legs, which have been cooked in the oven, seasoned with garlic, and been coated in this wonderful, delicious, brioche crumbed herb mix. They're sautéed in the pan and then baked in the oven for about 7 to 8 minutes. Served on the plate with a little bouquet of salad, wild roquette dressed with balsamic vinegar. Picked up with your fingers, incredibly rustic and absolutely delicious.
Very, very nice.
The frog's legs that we had at Del Pescatore was a very classic, rustic, local dish which had the frog's legs had been panade, as we know, and flour, egg wash and breadcrumbs. They were seasoned with garlic and herbs, then cooked on a non-stick frying pan in the oven. And just the simplicity was outstanding. I've taken it a step further and I started doing them here on my menu. We tried it with the breadcrumbs, which was very successful, and then 2 days later we tried it in the batter where we were dipping the frog's legs into a very natural yeast batter made with beer, served with a very fine puree of cauliflower, and that worked tremendously well, went down exceptionally well. Such a fascinating dish to cook. I've now taken it a 3rd step further, and I've started incorporating a fricassee, which we're using with sautéed artichokes, some crones, as we know from the Jerusalem artichoke family, some girolles and grated truffle. That sat in the centre of the plate with baby spinach, and then Jean-Claude, or Laurent, in the dining room will serve a very light velouté of Jerusalem artichoke on top of the baby spinach, cover the frog's legs in this wonderful rustic soup. Absolutely delicious. Thank you, Nadia. Tom, 14, no? Now, back to Del Pescadore.
And now for our main course, which happens to be the 7th course. We had this delicious venison sautéed with some red wine sauce, polenta, and some wonderful baby artichokes that have been braised for hours and hours and hours. Incredibly tender, very, very tasty, and classic garnish of grilled polenta. A very simply executed main course. The food, in a way, reminded me of a very similar style to Pierre Kaufmann, but amazing flavours and very, very tasty. After a little classic Parmesan cheese, if you had room for some beautiful nougat glacé with hot chocolate sauce or caramelised pear pancakes. God, it was delicious.
This is the apple tart.
The most exciting thing about tonight's dinner, it was set in a very rustic, relaxed surroundings, very warm, hearty service, and the complete opposite to how you'd find a 3 Michelin star restaurant in this country.
Merci, merci beaucoup. Merci.
Prego.
Merci beaucoup.
Accomodatevi per grappa.
Bonsoir. Bien.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Et bienvenue.
Super. Très gentil de vous revoir.
Très gentil.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir.
Je suis là pour excellent la cuisine.
Merci.
Excellent.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Would you mind if we just have a quick look around the kitchen
Yeah.
with you? Would you together?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes, no
Excellent.
problem.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Buongiorno. It's a.
We prepare me first course antipasti and mama pasta
Okay.
and all pastas, yes. And me second fish and meat. And my place is here, and the oven,
Yes.
naturally. And then for cheese here.
Right.
And then there are patisserie is there. We have not a very big kitchen, but it is important to have opportunity to see everything. All the people that works with us, we need to choose with our eyes.
Right.
And then we have maximum 30 people. We prepare everything. When you decide, when the guests they decide what they decide, and we like so much to change many things in the menu and to prepare pasta very different. And I think that you come in Italy just to look
Yeah, it's brilliant.
different
Fantastic.
things.
Tonight we had your classical kid cochon, your big
Yes.
struggle. And we had the soup of pois salami
Yes.
with the rice, the broth.
Yes,
Excellent.
you know that is a very important dish that we prepare along the winter season.
Brilliant.
Because once when in winter they killed the pig, they needed to have help from many people
Brilliant.
that lived around. Mi dici di smettere per piacere? That they lived around. And it was important to pay them
Right.
at the end of the day.
Ready.
And the payment, the bill, was just a dish of this minestra.
Brilliant. And so they used to actually pay, the local workers with the pig trotter as a payment. The pig trotter was fantastic. And then for me tonight, the dish, my most important was, the most interesting for me was the frog's legs.
Oh, yes.
Delicious.
This place 30 years ago was run by Nadia's parents, and you can actually still identify some of the machinery that was once bought all those years ago. And today still, both her parents work alongside her in the kitchen. And you can now see it's 1 in the morning, and the whole family are still as excited and dedicated to their business as they were as if it was 7 o'clock in the morning.
Only in big.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Ciao Nadia. No, guarda.
Signor Santini, auguri, grazie, auguri.
Arrivederci, buonasera, arrivederci.
Bye bye.
Grazie.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
In England, she has a reputation in England for being the mother of inspirational cooking.
Oh, really?
Oh yes, yes. Excellent.
And you think that Nadia is inspirational?
Oh yes, no, because
Of Antonio's mother.
No, because she is unfussy. The food
Yes.
is classic.
Yes.
But it's a new revolution of what she's doing. Brilliant. Very, very good. Like the frog's legs. Excellent. Brilliant. Okay.
We said goodbye 3 or 4 times by now, and it's incredibly difficult. Very sad to leave because none of us wanted to go, and now we're all standing there like Cub Scouts, awaiting Nadia's autograph, finally to go. The boys have still got these menus, tremendous souvenir, and a very touching goodbye to a very talented family.
We're waiting for you in London.
Yes.
Okay.
Ciao. Grazie. Bye bye. Have a nice trip in Italy, eh?
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Arrivederci, merci de votre visite, au revoir. Au revoir.
Inspirational, feeling incredibly full, and now unfortunately an hour's drive to the hotel, and can't wait to come back again.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye.
I wish you the best. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye. Dans 3 semaines. Oui. Le 28 novembre. Oui.